Hi, everybody. We're live now. Uh, we're just going to wait for everybody to get in. So give us a moment. And we're going to make sure that YouTube gets it all started up. Great. So we're on a 20-second delay here. Hi, I'm Matt Hill from National Parks at Night. And
I'm Chris Nicholson from National Parks at Night.
Awesome. So tonight we have our continuing series of BlogChat, where we pick some of our favorite blog posts and talk about the story behind it and the technical details and all of that good stuff. What we'd like to do is just remind you that in the live chat, we have us and some other people hanging out. Please leave us your questions or comments. We'd love to hear from you. And in the meantime, I am going to just close one of these other windows that I have here. Because I have things going. I have 3 screens here. It's a great setup, but it's the pinnacle of distraction.
All right.
So anyway, here I am, just with you, Chris. It's you and me talking.
You and me, right? That's what we're gonna pretend anyway.
Yeah, we're pretending.
Yeah. It could actually be you and me. Who knows?
Yeah, there's nobody else. There's only 6 other people watching in the live stream. I told you I have other windows open. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So we're talking about Devil's Tower, right?
Yeah.
You and I got to go there last year together. It was the first time I'd ever been there. We ran a workshop last summer, which was really wild. I mean, those lightning storms we had. It's the kind of thing you can't plan for in a workshop, but it was really cool. We got some really amazing stuff, and fortunately got out of there with our lives. But
smart planning. Yeah.
Well, it's all about knowing when to go, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Lightning storms and relationships. You gotta know when to go.
But
yes. Anyway, so but you had been to Devil's Tower before, like at least twice, right?
Yeah.
So tell me about the location. Like, what is this for photography? What do you like so much about it?
Without sounding mystical, there is energy there. I don't know what the science is, but strange stuff happens there. I was about to say shit.
Yeah,
strange stuff happens there. I've seen the weirdest weather happen there, and it's just like on off real quick. The first time when Gabe and I went there, we had the Milky Way arcing through the sky and a lightning storm in the corner. And then beautiful swaths of green through the sky, which I didn't know what they were at the time. It was like, something's wrong with my camera. And Gabe says, no, that's a phenomenon, and you should know about it. And so, like, I've seen so many weird things there, including climbers who didn't know how to budget their time well, and were coming down in the dark, which we'll talk about later.
Yeah, it seems to happen every time, right? But yeah, like, I got to see that too, just in that 1 week there. It's, the weather's never doing what you thought it was going to do 20 minutes ago.
No.
So, on the one hand, you might have some amazing shot setup that turns out you can't do. But the flip side of that is you don't ever think you're done shooting. No matter what's going on in the sky, you just wait, because something's going to change.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially at the Devil's Tower.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah, that's right. But yeah, I think you're right about the mystique too. I mean, there's some places you go that there's just something special to them. You can't put your finger on it, but you just know you're someplace different. You're someplace with some kind of magic that you don't understand, but you can sense it. And Devil's Tower is certainly like that.
Indubitably. And we weren't the first to notice it.
Oh, no.
It's revered by Native Americans. It's a very special place to them.
Yeah.
There's a lot
I think that whole mystique is a large part of why, it might look like a kind of a park that's a one-trick pony, but it's not. Because there's just that intangible that, I mean, for me, at least, helps with the creativity too. It's just, you're someplace cool.
Yeah. I can't wait to go back.
Yeah. So, so let's talk about this photos. You wrote this blog post last year, how I got the shot of some pretty epic light painting. This was not this was not a straightforward capture. I mean, you've got the star trails, and then you got the light painting. If you've ever been to Devil's Tower, you know what the scale is, that you didn't do this with the pocket light from camera left, you know. So let's talk about how you put this photo together. Talk about the story and everything that went into this right through post-processing and all that.
Thanks. This is probably not one of the most popular views of the tower, but it is one of the best ones that includes Polaris, because there are other views where the tower looks taller and is part of the landscape and not just a silhouette. But this one, you could get really, as you can see, really strong star trails here.
Yeah.
So we had a moonless night. It was beautiful. It was crystal clear. We had this sky glow going on, and it was warm. It was really warm, and so we couldn't take really long exposures because of long exposure noise, and so we weren't like really ripping long exposures, but we knew we wanted to get a monster star trail around Polaris.
Hey, Matt, just for people who might not know the relationship, you're mentioning the long exposure noise because of that heat. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. The warmer it is, the less your camera likes it. Your camera likes the chip to be cool. The process of creating an image with a digital camera means that you're you're charging this sensor with electricity, and the longer you charge it, the more the heat builds up. So the longer you hold that shutter open and it's collecting light and then turning it into bits and bytes, the greater the heat becomes. So the greater the ambient heat, let's say it was like about 85 degrees there, the less time you can leave it open before that electricity and that heat turns into artifacts, what I call color confetti, which is long exposure noise. And those are the red, green, and blue dots that you see mostly in the shadow areas because they're easier to see there, but they're everywhere. Yeah.
Okay.
And if it's cooler out, you're less likely to get that. So if you're there when it's, say, snowing, you can leave your camera open 3, 4, 5, 6 times longer.
So in this case, because you're there on a hot night, if you were there on a cool night, you probably, I know you would have been tempted to just rip an hour-long exposure or whatever and get the star circles that way.
Yeah.
But because you had a hot night, it kind of backed you into producing the image you had in mind in a different way.
Yep. And this one was 150 seconds. After testing, I determined that, a little over 2 minutes was about my stopping point for the D750, which was my favorite camera up until I got the Z6. And okay, that's fine. 2.5 minutes or 150 seconds times as many as it takes, But let's say if it was 40 degrees out, I could go 8 minutes on a D750 without having to worry about long exposure noise. Yeah.
Okay.
And that was at ISO 1600 too.
Right. Wow. So, so you're forced into this, 150-second exposure, which is not even close to being long enough to produce star circles. I mean, you can see in this photo here, the stars are just beginning to trail. It looks more blurry than artistic, right? Yeah. I mean, this looks like it could be an accident.
Yep.
That's not an accident because this is just a piece of the whole that you're going to use.
Right. Well, what we do to fix that is there's 2 things you can do. You can commit to one long picture and turn on long exposure noise reduction, which solves it, and it takes away other options. You can't shoot another picture until it's done processing that picture. Let's say if it's an hour long, it processes for an hour. Or, as we're going to learn as we scroll through this, you can choose you could choose to shoot many pictures and stack them up in post-processing. And the advantage to that is if something bad happens during the sequence of exposures, well, guess what? You can fix those bad things by eliminating those on the layers that you see.
Yeah.
So I think I have some examples in here someplace. Oh, that happens to be the very next thing. Let's take a look at that. So the scene was this. I set my camera back behind everybody because I wanted to show what the scene looked like. So we had some people spread out and everybody was pointing up towards the tower. And you'll see a couple of things going on that we talk about when shooting in groups. Number one is a lot of people using red lights. And if you notice, some of those red lights aren't exactly pointing straight down. They're pointing a little bit forward to the cameras. And that affected some of my photographs and some of the other people's photographs too. That's one of those pitfalls that I'm talking about. If you take many, many pictures over and over, some of your pictures might not have that red in the foreground and you can mask it out in all the other layers.
Yep.
But it's all spread out here. And one of the things I love is that one of the best parts of somebody coming down the mountain happened in that picture. You know, it just I don't know why on this one short picture there happened to be so much light there, but it looked like, God forbid, somebody was making a rapid descent.
Yeah, that's a long way to go in 150 seconds.
I know. Yeah.
Maybe they dropped a flashlight.
Let's move on.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, I wanted to have more than star points. Obviously, this is beautiful to have all of this. But the object of the evening shoot was to make a massive, epic star trail. So I used my intervalometer. I set it to the 150 seconds, and I told it to take a lot of pictures. I believe I set it to infinity, which is the double dash, because I didn't know when I was going to be coming back, and I just wanted to hedge my bets that I could make a really big star trail if it took me extra long to do this crazy thing that I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. The crazy thing is this. On the left, you'll see what the tower looked like without any illumination. This was a new moon. There was no moon out. And it doesn't quite look like that famous tower from Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. It doesn't have that texture. It's not like the mashed potatoes. So I said, hey, Gabe, grab a radio. I'm going to grab the other. I'm going to go drive up to the base of the tower. And I'm going to walk around because the parking area is around the side. Yeah, so yeah, I drove up, and then in the dark, I hustled around the loop trail, which, mind you, it's paved, but I was thinking about rattlesnakes and bears, and I like to psych myself out at night. Because the story of this place with the Native Americans is that a big bear chased them up there and clawed the sides. That was on my mind. Anyway, so I walked around and I was using the radio to call down to Gabe. It was about a mile away. Hey, Gabe, does this look good? No. Come around a little bit more. Hey, Gabe, does this look good? No. Come around a little bit more. So Gabe was the lighting director telling me where to shine the light. And I did it from two sides. I did it from the left side and I did it from the right side too. So that's how we pulled out the detail in the tower, which would have otherwise been just a silhouette and kind of boring.
Yeah, it's a really good example of collaboration with light painting. One of the things I like about night photography is, photography in general tends to be a very solitary experience. But when you're shooting at night, particularly when you're light painting, is you can partner up with 1, 2, 3, 4 people to produce an image that you wouldn't be able to do alone. Like, you could have pulled off the technical aspect of this by yourself, but it probably wouldn't have come out as good because you would have been a mile away from your camera. So it's a really good use of collaboration here.
Thanks. I think I would have been afraid of groundhogs or stealing my camera if I was spending like an hour to drive up there and walk and go light paint and then come back, and nobody would have told me I was in the right place or not either.
Yeah.
It was nearly impossible to do this without collaboration.
Yeah.
That's why we love shooting together.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that was the killer part, and we didn't have to do it for every frame, which is something beginners to star trails and light painting might not know. It doesn't need to be in every frame. You just need to get one frame right and maybe do one for safety. and then you choose the ones that complement. I think this happened in 2 different frames and I masked them together. So
The light from the left and the light
the light from
from
the
the
left
right.
for like, yeah, because I still had to hustle around, and it's only
Right.
150 seconds.
Yeah, that's a
And
long trail.
it might take 150 seconds for me to shine a flashlight all the way up that tower, which is hundreds of feet tall.
Right.
Yeah, so it was beautiful. So that was fun. So we shot a lot of different variations. I got to spend a lot of time with the bears and the rattlesnakes up there, and it was just me radioing down to Gabe. All right, okay, was that good? All right, well, let it run, and I'd sit there for like 10 minutes. All right, let's try another. So
Yeah.
the color coding that you see on screen that I'm going to share now was me making decisions about post processing. So when I was looking through the images that we shot the next day, I chose certain sequences that I thought would work best. And I might have come down and shifted my camera a little bit and come back and maybe not. And some of them, like you could see, like image 190, there's somebody's flashlight. I don't know why, just arcing straight up. They were behind their tripods, but they had no idea that mine was behind theirs.
Okay.
Which I knew the risks. I knew exactly what was going to happen when I did this, but that's what happens. And you could see in 180, there's a lot of red there. And I gotta say, when I first saw it, I was like, oh, I think somebody messed up my shot in that picture. But it was me. When I came back to the car, those were the tail lights, and I actually screwed up my picture and everybody else's. So there's a lesson, right? If you are going to drive in and out to go light paint someplace else, these new cars have so many safety features, like the running lights are always on. Once you stomp on the brakes are really bright.
Yeah.
It's really hard to come and go without affecting photographs.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, so I chose to work with these frames, and this is just, you take all of these images. We have some other things on our blog, probably many places that we mention how to do this. You select all of these images in Lightroom, right click, and choose edit in Photoshop as layers, and then just one more step after that, you just choose the lighten adjustment in Photoshop, and you can stack them. But before you get to that, sometimes you want to make adjustments in your photographs. Now, Tim has an amazing blog post and video, I believe, about using the range mask.
Mm-hmm.
When you pull a gradient down, you don't want it to affect, if you want it to only affect the sky, you should go check that out on our blog, and check it out on YouTube. You can say the gradient should only touch certain areas, and that's where the range mask comes into play. And that's what I did here. I had it only select for luminance, and that luminance was everything but the darkest area, the silhouette. So it was pretty easy to make the range mask work that way. So once I applied that, I then made some adjustment. I brought the exposure up one stop and the contrast up to 29, clarity up 11, and dehaze. That's funny. This year I wouldn't make those same adjustments, and we've covered that too. Like I wouldn't make the same adjustments that I did then either. So I made these choices for editing, and then I also applied those to all of the images in the sequence, and then I did that select all of the images in the sequence. I right click on them, choose export as layers, and edit in layers in Photoshop, and then we got this.
It's a magic process. Like, I love teaching people about star stacking, because you get to this step right here where you select all the layers and press lighten, and it's like magic how easy it comes together.
No kidding.
It sounds like a complicated process until you do it the first time, and it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah. It's really the gateway drug for night photography.
Yeah. And you can use this for other things too, right? Like, you could use it for light painting.
Oh, yeah.
Again, if you're working alone, light painting different parts of the scene at a different time and putting them together that way, which is, part of what you did here too. So you can see not only when you went to the light mode, not only did you get the star trails, but now that light painting you did back on the rock shows up too, from both the left and the right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, the thing that's always charmed me about night photography happens is like you take a slice of time and you take more time and more time and more time, and then you push it all together and pull it out like clay, and you put it inside one frame and you freeze it there. And our minds look at that and say, that's not how I see the world, but holy shit, is that cool?
Yeah.
I have to bleep myself later. It's YouTube, right? So yeah, this is why I keep doing it, because I'm surprised every time, and I love it. So I talked about, this is the headlamps and the flashlights, you know, and I did the mea culpa again here, that it was me and the brake lights that did it. We're getting some fun comments about that on the live stream. And then I shot it. I guess I decided to reframe it to vertical because I thought that this was more powerful. And I think both of the images have merits, but I wanted to honor the strange power and the strange just energy that's at Devil's Tower. And every night that I've been there, I felt it in a different way, but it comes from something. And like every time I shoot there, I try and honor that and draw it out through night photography.
Okay.
No.
All right,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. So,
all right.
So
well,
when we went this year, what was your favorite moment?
The
Or
lightning.
this year, last year?
Yeah, it was last year already.
Oh my gosh.
Well, there's the ice cream in town. That was good.
Yeah, that was good.
But the favorite moment shooting, I mean, it's the lightning. You know,
Yeah.
that was it was almost a pipe dream that we would capture it in that week. You know, we would see it and it would be on the horizon, and we're thinking about it. And then that night, anybody who was on the workshop would tell you about it. I mean, just how epic a lightning storm that was. And we actually moved to capture it too. We were originally set up to do Milky Way photos, and the clouds were rolling in. And I remember you and I had to be probably a quarter mile apart in that meadow. And I came up to you, and we both had the same idea. It's like, we got to move for the lightning. We got to go put ourselves in a position to shoot that if it comes to the tower. And it was a big if. Like, we didn't know, because again, the weather's crazy there, but it seemed like too good an opportunity to miss. So, we got into position, and then we had to move a little bit from there. But where we ended up, we had that just amazing show right behind the tower. It was like bang, 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 bang. And every time the tower is getting silhouetted behind these huge bolts of lightning. And then it got scary. So we left because that storm was just coming right at us. And, I got what I think are some good photos that night, but I always talk about this, it's the experience, right?
Yeah.
Of being out in nature like that, and being able to just witness the power of nature and the power of weather was just incredible. How about you?
I'm going to express it this way.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another good example of what was that one stacked? Yeah, that one was stacked, right?
This one was stacked. Yeah, it came from, I think, those. Yeah.
Right. So that's another good use of the lighten mode in Photoshop, is you could take those different exposures of the lightning, just like you did with the stars, stack them together in Photoshop and use the lighten mode, and now they all show up.
Oh wow! Yeah, I did a little bit of creative masking that one.
Yeah, well, you got it right. I mean,
yeah.
So this photo right here, see your final product. We know that this is a composite, but this is exactly what it felt like being there. I mean, that storm was intense. I mean, this creates the feeling of what it was like standing in that field while that storm was coming back over the tower.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
It was also my birthday.
That was on your birthday?
That was on my birthday.
Did I realize that at that? I must have known at the time, but that reminds me when we were at my birthday
That's
shooting
right.
in Olympic National Park and got the Northern Lights. So yeah, so the lesson there is that if anybody out there wants to get an amazing natural experience at night, you should come on a workshop with Matt and I that corresponds with one of our birthdays.
That's your
We
son
gotta
up
plan
now.
that. Right. Yeah. All right. So a couple of people have mentioned something in the comments while we were talking. Martha was asking about, we're talking about Lennar before, and Martha was asking about software to deal with Lennar in post-production. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Long exposure noise reduction. Well, in Lightroom there is the color noise reduction, and I try to take care of it in the field instead of in post production. I'm a preventative sort of shooter. I like to zoom into 100% while I'm shooting to see if I can observe the color freckles, the confetti, to see if they're there. And if I see them, to take steps to remedy on the spot, because all of the remedies in post-processing, I think, are less elegant than doing it in post. But if you need to, there is the color noise reduction in the detail panel. That can work. And what it does is it just desaturates the red, green, and blue pixels.
Yeah.
They become white, which might be really annoying, and then you have to spot them all out.
Yeah, you end up spotting them anyway. So the answer really is that this is one of those things you really want to deal with in camera if you can. Sometimes using Lennar can get in the way of, like a stacking. You can't run Lennar while you're shooting an image sequence, because then, in your example, if you were using it, you'd have a 150-second gap between each 150-second exposures. You can't use it there. Sometimes you just want to get shooting and you don't want to wait for it, whatever. But if you can use Lennar in field, then you're setting yourself up for the best results, because there's just really no easy way to deal with it in post-production. It's all going to be tedious.
Yeah. If the shot is important enough to spend an hour and a half on, make it your last shot of the night, or bring 2 cameras.
Yeah. It's a great use for 2 cameras, let one bake the noise reduction in while you're still using the other one. Yeah. Another question, Seth was asking about light painting in the national parks. So Devil's Tower doesn't have any restrictions about light painting. In fact, it's gotten to be a little bit of an urban legend that the parks don't allow it. There's 419 national park units, and there's the Grand Teton and Hovenweep, Arches, Canyonlands, and Natural Bridges, I think, are the only 5 out of 419 that have restrictions against light painting. And for most of them, it's not, they don't ever do it. It's a matter of a commercial group doing it and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But you got over 400 units of the park system that do allow it, and Devil's Tower is one of them. So you are operating within the bounds of the rules of the park there.
And the rules might change every year.
Yeah, they might.
Yeah.
And I would say, if we don't want to see them change, then as a whole, night photographers just need to be responsible, right? And
that's right.
Not overdo it, not ruin the experience of other people who are there.
Be respectful, be responsible.
Yeah.
If somebody challenges you, have a pleasant conversation with them about it, instead of saying, "Hey, it's my park too,"
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, Matt, what else do we need to talk about here as we wrap up?
Gratitude.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for joining us.
Yep. You guys are amazing. Thanks for tuning in. The ones who are doing it live now, and for all of you who see it in the future, we thank you. We love teaching night photography, and we're glad that you joined us. And we look forward to seeing you again. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the little dinger next to it so you get notifications when we go live or make new videos, which we do on a pretty regular basis. And on our website, npan.co/blog. That's the short link to get to our blog where you can read full blog posts that are, some people like reading instead of watching, I like both, so if you like reading, our blogs are a feast for your brain and your eyes. So drop on by. And while you're there, sign up for our email list because you'll get the blogs in your email every week. So Chris, would you like to add anything?
No, I think you covered it all. So thanks everybody for coming, and look forward to seeing you next time, and see you out in the dark season tonight.
Fantastic. All right. I am going to close by just sharing that picture one more time. It's not the one that we had before, but we're just going to leave on this because may all of you have such a wonderful moment when you go to Devil's Tower. And with that, good night and have a good day.
Good night.